Coming up on The Returned.
I saw my body. It just terrified me. My body was very thin, very frail. I was bald, and I was dead. My husband was crying. I was able to see my daughter. She was on her hands and knees, and she was crying. I started to hear something.
Hi, and welcome to The Returned. The truth always follows you back. Hi, and welcome to The Returned, a place where we share near-death stories, out-of-body experiences, spiritual awakenings, signs from spirit, and the journeys of healers and lightworkers from around the world. Today, we are sharing space with Sommer Leigh Platten. She had an extraordinary experience where she watched herself die, but what happened next was not darkness. She encountered the Hindu god Krishna as a baby. Sommer, welcome to The Returned.
Thank you so much for having me, MJ. I am honored to be here.
You're so very welcome. Sommer, before we get into your experience, I would like to ground us in who you were prior to this experience. And also, did spirituality or religion play any part or any role in that experience or prior to that?
Well, who I was prior to my experience was a holistic health practitioner of 27 years. I held a license for massage therapy. I was living in the majestic Sedona, Arizona, and I had a private practice where I was primarily treating veterans who were in chronic pain. My career was absolutely a result of my own curiosity. As a child, my household was Catholic. My mom and dad had a openness, though, with my very hungry desire to want to understand what was out there. So with that being said, I had a girlfriend who was LDS or Mormon, and I was allowed to go to her church. I had another friend who was a born-again Christian. I was allowed to go to her church. And I had another friend who was Jewish, and while I did not get to go to synagogue with her, I did engage in a lot of conversation with her and would bring some of those very interesting questions frankly clashed with what I was learning in Catholicism, so I could speak to my mom or my dad about it and try to gain a deeper understanding. As I got older and was able to really step deeper into various philosophical ideas around religions, my concept and my understanding of various spiritual and religious practices from the West to the East grew. And so prior to this experience, I'm going to say I had knowledge of a lot of religions, but they were philosophical. They were ideas, and I didn't have an actual relationship, particularly with the Hindu god Krishna, in the way that I do today as a direct result of the experience that I had.
I was wondering about that, actually. You would see that in your experience, and I was really wondering about that if you did have some kind of religious, not attachment, but a religious
I don't,
connection.
yes, I don't claim
Oh my
any
goodness.
religion, but I do align with a lot of religious or spiritual ideologies. And when I align with them, I like to put them into play to see how they can help me to be the type of person that I am aspired to be.
I see. Summer, can you take us through the day your life changed? What was happening physically, emotionally, spiritually just before you left your body?
Sure. A month before then, I had gotten a diagnosis of invasive lobular carcinoma, which is a type of breast cancer. And I was 3 days out of what was going to be my first surgery to remove that cancerous tumor. I had never had a surgery where I was given anesthesia and put under. I did have a cesarean for my daughter, but I was awake during that. And so I had a lot of fear around what surgery was going to be like. And while I was trying to remain positive, underneath there was a lot of skepticism around what was going to happen. And that was due to some of my ideas around Western medicine and how it wasn't congruent with my current, at that time, belief system. At the time, I was reading a book called The Tibetan Book of Living and Dying. And so in that book, there are what are called death practices. And so I couldn't sleep this night. And actually, I was having more and more difficulty sleeping in anticipation of this surgery coming up. So it's about 4 o'clock in the morning. And I decided that I would just go ahead and do this death practice because I couldn't sleep. I allowed myself to sink in to my body. And as I sunk into my body and started doing some particular method of breathing, I encountered an experience that was not within my control, really. It was kind of like going into see a movie and thinking I was going to go into one movie, but was taken into a different theater. I suppose is kind of the best way I can explain this. And so in that other movie theater, I saw my body and how I looked, and it just terrified me because my body was very thin and very frail. I was bald. I was sunken in, and I was dead. My husband was laying over me, crying. And I have a daughter who is going to be 28, and she lives in Washington. And I was able to see my daughter at the same time as I was seeing my body and my husband. And she was on her hands and knees on the floor, and she was crying. She was like at loss of breath. And the energy and the feelings of their sorrow was like a black smoke kind of filling up the room that I was in as I was looking at these two family members experiencing the result of my death. as I was almost being consumed by this smoke, I started to hear something. It was like a song. And as soon as I turned in to the song, it was kind of like when you smell something really good and your mouth salivates without you thinking about it. It's just like an automatic experience. As soon as I tuned in, automatically was transferred to this field of flowers. And this field of flowers was like so vast. It was like never ending. It went on and on and on. And the flowers were kind of like swaying, and they were the most beautiful colors that I actually haven't really. They were colors that I've seen with my eyes, but they were also like these blends of colors that I had never really seen before. And it was the colors of, it sounds kind of weird, but it was the colors of the flowers and how these flowers were swaying and dancing to their song that was creating what I was hearing. And it was mesmerizing and it was captivating. And so I just started walking through these flowers to like witness them and be with them to experience them in like a closer way. And so as I'm moving through these flowers, I see this baby. And it's a little blue baby. Like the baby's skin is actually blue. And the baby has these big eyes, like these big like eyes of curiosity and love and expansion in his eyes. And the baby has black hair and has like this little kind of like bandana around his head with this little peacock feather in his hair. And as soon as the baby sees that I see him, he puts his arms out like how babies do when they want to be picked up. And so I pick this baby up and I hold this baby close to me and I'm looking at this baby and this baby is smiling at me and I'm smiling at this baby, but the feelings that I'm getting from this baby was like the most incredible sensation. Were like waves of warm blankets being put over me that were just filled with this incredible, incredible, I want to say love, but love is almost not a big enough word to describe what I felt when I was holding this baby. I didn't need to actually verbalize or use words. With this baby. This baby was like telepathic, and the baby told me that he was Krishna as a baby. And so, as I'm holding this baby in this field of flowers, my human body starts to regress, and I loop all the way back to being a newborn baby myself. And so now I'm sitting in this field of flowers as a baby with Krishna as a baby. And in my own being, I'm feeling the innocence of being a baby. I'm feeling like an awareness of consciousness in a new way as a result, and a lightness. And in this lightness and this innocence and this new perception, I just start laughing. And I'm laughing and laughing, and baby Krishna starts laughing with me, and we're laughing together. And it is like such belly laughs happening, and this exquisite feeling of joy and like triumph and connection. And like it's bringing me to this this deep understanding and this ability to embrace all of these sensations without the one thing that I always had my entire life that I can remember, and that is kind of like wanting to go into it, but then second guessing myself, like wanting to allow it to fill me up, but kind of wondering if there was some trickery involved in it somehow. Like that was just removed. So it was a surrender. It was a surrender of being able to go into this laughter and this sensation of joy and these colors of these flowers and the songs that they were singing, and letting this sound evoke this very natural desire that I was having without this human-esque mind giving a secondary thought to it. And that's what started to happen. So as that started to happen, and I'm laughing and looking all around at all these flowers swaying and singing and their colors, and Krishna laughing, and this energy that's transpiring, my eyes catch the sky. And in the sky, I start to see divine beings, like angels and other godly figurines and forms. And they kind of looked like how, like when you're looking in the sky and you see a cloud, and how you can kind of, how your mind wants to see like a face in the cloud or kind of make an image out of the cloud. Well, they weren't clouds. It was just the sky, but I was able to see these figureless forms in the sky. And as I'm focusing on these non-physical forms that are divine, that are godly, Krishna says to me that it's time for me to go to this next phase, and that as I go through this next phase, I'm going to become formless, like these forms that I see. And as I become formless, I'm going to not be with my senses anymore. So I'm not going to hear anymore or see anymore or smell these flowers anymore. The smell, by the way, was like the most fragrant aroma. It was like being in a perfume store, if you will, where all of these various smells that just like, you know. Mhm. And so I didn't feel scared. I felt very curious to become formless. And so he said, as you take a breath out, you're going to shift, and as you lose your senses, what's going to expand is your consciousness. So I took this breath out and started to lose my senses, but started to gain my consciousness. And what that was like for me was becoming, it was like a becomingness, like becoming part of the sky and becoming actually part of these angels and godly these godly these godly feelings and formations that didn't have a form of like physicality, but they had an energetic, non-physical form that I was starting to relate to and becoming part of. That experience felt like the totality of death, of of who I was as Sommer Leigh Platten. Because I was branching into becoming part of the oneness, which in my current mind, I had a vague a particle of understanding of what it was like to become one with God, if you will. That sensation of that, that feeling and experience of that was like the beach versus that grain of sand that I had before. And I just engaged in that and became that and experienced that. I swam in that, if you will, with my energy. And it was a welcoming. And it evoked everything. It elicited my soul in a way that I had never even thought of before. And my consciousness, the way that my consciousness changed, like what I was able to perceive and my understanding of of I want to say my life, but I'm going to say it was more than just my life. It was like universally. I was and it was also very appealing, and my I was very curious about it. It was, and the more curious I was, the more I expanded into this abyss of this godly energy. And I think just as I was about to experience the totality of all of that, Krishna came to me. And Krishna said, I want you to really swallow all of this and feel all of this and let yourself really grasp all of this and what this is for you. And you are not through with what is on earth. It was important, however, for you to have this experience so you can bring the energy of love. That was ultimately what I was experiencing, was love. So I can bring this experience back and share this experience of love. Not like megaphone it out to people on the top of a mountain, but through my own actions daily as I traversed this very difficult, very divine, very beautiful, very ugly thing called life. That there is an overtone that I'm now connected to as a result. There's a personal relationship. It's not a psychological or a physiological idea anymore for me. I actually feel a connection. You can call that God if you want to. God comes in like many forms and has many words. So for a very typical understanding, that connection with God. And so Krishna told me that I was going to come back to my body. And as Krishna said that, it was kind of like a drain. It was kind of like if the bathtub was filled up with water and the drain was then taken out and the water starts moving, coming down into the drain. My physical body is that drain, and the water is all of the experiences that I had from the first moment that I heard that sound, which was the flowers, and I was shifted into that other realm. And so all of this water is kind of like coming into me, and Krishna is singing and playing, and Krishna's saying, as you're coming back. So I started like seeing the earth, if you will, and kind of like an astronaut up in the earth, like how you can see like all the clouds over the planet. And then as I'm coming down into the planet, into the atmosphere, I see footsteps on the earth. And Krishna tells me these are the reminders. These are all of the sages and the bodhisattvas and the wisdom keepers and the shamans and all of the human angels that have walked this earth and left their footprint. That we have the ability to stand on top of, so we can absorb that wisdom and that energy to help us with our walk through earth. And as I'm getting closer, I'm starting to hear like a buzzing sound, and I'm seeing like a smog. And the smog and the buzzing sound are the fears and the anger and the separation that people have from their spirit and from their own idea of what God is. Their inability to be adept to that because they are caught up in the materialism of the earth. And by materialism, I don't just mean like the man-made things of like clothing or furnishings or homes or boats, but the materialism of our belief systems and how we fight over our belief systems and how we go to war over our belief systems. And it was about like our greed and how and our selfishness and how we will go without helping another person to sustain ourselves and what we want with our greed. And so I was shown all of these things as this buzz is getting louder and this smog that I'm seeing in the atmosphere very close to the earth. And Krishna is saying, I'm showing this to you because you were part of that buzz and part of that smog. And that is a reason why you had cancer. Not that cancer is anybody's fault, but for me, it was showing me how cancer formed as a tumor in my body, how I was participating in my life in a way that I had the power and control of to change. And so as I'm getting closer to my body, which by the way is not looking like the body looked when I left it, but also not looking like how I currently looked. There was a kind of physical difference in my body. And if I had to, in my own logical mind, guess why that was, I'm going to say it's because there were like maybe part of my cells that had changed as a result of that experience. And so, or in my mind, and so my body actually looked different to me than it did. And in that current life of mine, that next day, I was supposed to go get a blood draw because I'm getting ready to have surgery and they needed my blood for surgery. So just as I'm entering, and it's kind of like, if you will, like an airplane, like, and you're seeing like the city as you're getting ready to land, right? So I'm seeing this place that I'm supposed to go to for my blood draw, and I'm seeing people that, oh my gosh, MJ, the way that I'm seeing, I am seeing this light in their eye, and I am seeing their genuine field and who they really are. I'm not seeing them the way my eyes were seeing them. I was like in this very like judgmental approach and also then not seeing myself as like shame on me for that, but seeing myself of I see where you have this room to grow and heal. And I'm saying hi to these people and wanting to like, shake their hand in gratitude for the beauty. They're actually these flowers in the field that I was seeing. They have their own unique color and their own unique song and how I don't have to go to this other realm. If I want to have that frame, I can see these beautiful flowers that actually live in every individual human on this earth. And so I'm kind of being given like all these little tidbits, all these little pieces, like as I'm getting ready to come back into my body and back into earth that Krishna is showing me. And I'm sure I'm missing a couple of those as I'm explaining this to you. But all in all, the essence of that and the message of that gave me a different perception and it helped me to remember. And the experience ultimately was just such a gift for me. It was a healing for me. Sometimes you don't know you need something until you get it. And I needed that. I needed that so much. especially before going into that surgery and what that surgery was going to result in, and how it was really how it was really my lifeline to get me through those next several months of experiences, which I'm going to say Krishna knew I was going to have those experiences in my body, and Krishna wanted to give me that gift to help me because I still have a mission, and I still have a purpose, and it's not the purpose that I did have, but it was the purpose that I wasn't seeing and I wasn't in touch with until I had that experience.
When you came back into your body, what was that like when you opened your eyes? Or, like, I mean, did you open your eyes or did you just come back in and just be like, oh,
So coming back into my actual body was kind of two sides of the spectrum. Like, one side of the spectrum was eager in anticipation because I'm being shown how to live, and I want to do it. Like, I want to put those shoes on and start walking in them. On the other side, that was such a beautiful, incredible, amazing place. And becoming formless and being part of that was so inviting and so comforting. I didn't necessarily want to leave that. And that relationship and ability to communicate with Krishna was so special. And I still have that, though. I do still have that relation. I'm building on it. It's actually growing because of my dedication and my discipline to show up for myself with my spiritual practices in a different way than I had been in the past. And then also there was like a visceral experience, and it was kind of like, I'm going to say, putting on a really tight sock, or putting on like a really tight glove, if you will, only the reverse. I was the sock or the glove, and my consciousness or my soul was my foot or my hand. It was like trying to condense this super huge, beautiful soul of mine into this. I'm like 5 feet tall and 100 pounds on a good day. So it was trying to like fit something really big into something really small. And it had a visceral sensation to it. Yeah, that's how I can best describe it. It's like trying to fit something tight, trying to fit into something tight.
that was incredible. So let me just be clear here, just so I'm clear on what I heard here. So what happened was, is you sat down and you were reading the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and you decided to do a death practice.
Well, I had
And
been reading the Tibetan Book of the Dead. At this current time, though, I was laying down in bed. I was trying to get some sleep
Mhm,
because it's like 4 o'clock in the morning.
I
Yes.
see.
Yes.
Then, so this death practice is breathing, kind of like probably meditation of some sort.
It's a meditation where you're supposed to see your body, your physical body, decaying and becoming part of the earth. So, like, decaying, like as you would imagine if you were to go lay down in the forest somewhere and your tissues, your skin were to decay. And so as I started visualizing just that, laying down, I was living in Sedona, so I went like to some sagebrush. I went to this area that I like to do trail walking in, and laid down there kind of by this wall that I like to go to. I started to do the death practice of seeing myself decay and becoming part of the earth. And I was brought, like I said in the beginning, from that movie screen, if you will, into a different movie screen. And
So you came out and you were able to see your body, though.
I saw my body, but when I saw my body, when I was leaving my body didn't look the way that it looked at the time.
Often it doesn't.
Because when I
That's
saw
interesting.
my body was very frail and sunken in, and I was bald. But at that time, my hair was actually down to my hips. I had very long black hair. So the way I was seeing my body when I left, my body did not look actually the way that it did. It looked the way I guess would logically picture my body if I had died of cancer.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
That's very unique. Now, let me go this way. Um, when you left your body, did you have a physical body? Do you remember having a physical body, or was it like a light body?
So I I went through two leavings of the body, I guess, if you will, because I initially left my body when I was looking at my husband crying over me. And I was kind of in that room, like I talked about, it started feeling like it was getting covered in blackness because I was feeling all of the pain and the sadness of that were belonged to my husband and to my daughter because they had lost me. And so I was a physical body. I felt like I was a physical body then and then got shifted into the flowers. And I felt like, I guess it's kind of like when you're in your body, you're in a body. Like if I were to get up and go to my kitchen right now, I can't see my body, but I can feel my feet on the floor and I can like see where I'm going. And so I could feel the sensations of being in that field of flowers. I could hear them. I could smell them. I could feel like how I was feeling in my body, like the joy and like the amazement. And then I could feel myself when I held baby Krishna. I could feel myself kind of going back, and because I actually became a baby and I saw myself sitting next to Krishna as a baby. And then Krishna saying to me when I was connecting to these these formless divine beings that were in the sky, and Krishna saying, "Are you ready to transcend into this next realm? And when you do that, you're going to lose your senses. You will not have your senses anymore." And him kind of giving me this guiding direction of like, just take a big exhale. And as you exhale, you will kind of become this. You will leave your body and become part of these divine beings that you are connecting to with your consciousness, and will be able to further your consciousness as you become more one with this consciousness.
Where do you think you were? Like, were you in another realm, another dimension, in the same place as we are now? Where do you think, if you could say off the top of your head, where were you?
I would say I was for sure in another realm, just because, well, you don't see flowers dancing and singing in this realm now, do we?
I wish.
I mean, maybe if you took the right plant medicine, you might see that. But I can assure you, I was not under the influence of anything like that during this time. Yes. I think think I was definitely in a different multidimensional space, or in a different realm, in a, um, in a heavenly space, if you will, especially that second part, like when Krishna told me to exhale and I was going to become formless and I was going to lose all my senses. I wasn't going to hear anymore, see anymore, smell anymore, or feel a body anymore, but that I was still going to have my consciousness. What that was like to have consciousness without my senses.
That sounds
Because
very
I had
odd,
never had
doesn't
an
it?
experience like that. I've never since had an experience like that where I had a sense of like a sense of knowing and a sense of ability, but without thinking about it, without being able to experience, without hearing or without seeing. Um, this very beautiful place that I was, where I was just expanding and growing and feeling more love and gaining this 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 wisdom of what actually the universe is and what actually God is and what actually life is and death is and what actually planets are and stars and the elements and like all of these things. And it was not so much something like one by one being fed as if you're reading a book. It was like the thing that's coming to me is Big Bang Theory, right? Or it's like Big Bang without the theory. It was like a big bang. And then I just had this knowingness. I just had this ability. And it was me connecting to all of it.
Now, why do you think what was the connection with Krishna and you? Why did he show up as a baby, in your opinion, and then, you know, grow from there? Why do you think?
I think Krishna probably showed up as a baby because for me, babies symbolize safety. They cannot hurt me. They're pure. They're sweet. I like holding babies. I like trusting. I think all of those things. I might maybe have been a little standoffish, like maybe thought it was like if it was Krishna as a man, might have maybe there was a part of my consciousness that would have been maybe taken back in not a way that would have led me to be more open to experience.
But you weren't studying or you weren't religious.
No, I was not religious and I knew who Krishna was as I mean, I knew about Hinduism. I'm a yoga instructor. And so I was familiar with Krishna, being familiar with Hinduism as it correlates to yoga.
See, I'm trying to get to that because you're one of the only people that I have heard that, well, so far for me, I'm sure there's others out there, but for me, that someone else actually showed up other than the white light or Jesus or Mother Mary. So this is why I'm asking. I find this very fascinating that he showed up. And then while we're on that, I would like to ask you, what is God in your opinion? Who is he? What does he look like? What do you think of that?
A very simple answer: God is everything that you think God is. For me, God is the purest form of love and the biggest form of light and all of the spectrum of light and sound beyond what we are able to connect and receive in this three-dimensional realm.
Now, Sommer, do you know why you had this experience? Or an idea of why you might
Well, I
have?
have an idea of why I had the experience. I was grappling to my life, and I had just been diagnosed with breast cancer, mind you. And I was getting ready to go into surgery. And I was a licensed massage therapist, but I was also a yoga instructor, and I did breath work. I worked with sound. My background was in Chinese medicine as a body worker, and so I did Tuina and Song, which works through the meridian system and things of that nature. And so I had this very limited belief that if you're spiritual, you don't get sick, and that if you're spiritual, you're positive all the time, and if you're spiritual, you are just basically able to transcend the average human. It sounds so funny when I'm saying this. I'm like, oh, but you're
No,
able
but
to
that is what
transcend the
some people do think that way. Some
yeah.
people do. So it's important that we actually have this conversation. It's really important. I think it's good.
Yes. Yes. So that was kind of where my mindset was. People would come in and they would share things with me, and I just didn't have the amount of sympathy and not sympathy but compassion. I didn't have compassion for them. Frankly, I was pretty judgmental about their lives, and while I was doing body work or what have you, it wasn't really coming through my heart with full capacity. I was coming through my heart and my mind with a very logical, judgmental, this is what I should do based off of what they're saying and what I'm thinking about them approach. And also in my own life, I was pretty judgmental. I was very disconnected from myself in a lot of ways. I was absolutely spiritually bypassing. I had a lot of emotional suppression that I was engaging in. Had lifestyle habits that were very poor lifestyle habits. Particularly, I was smoking a lot of cannabis. I was eating a lot of like sugar-based sugary foods or foods that broke down into sugar. I was hearing messages like things that I should do, and I was then setting intentions, but I wasn't taking action. And so there has been a lot of changes, and those changes happened through my processes as a result of cancer as a catalyst, but more so the way, like how that experience gave me new eyes to look at the experience of cancer. And so after that first surgery, they get to do something called like a pathology, if you will, on your margins. And we have 6 margins. And so after that first surgery, 4 out of my 6 margins came back positive with cancer, which meant I was going to have another surgery. And then after that second surgery, 2 of those 6 margins came back positive with cancer. And so then I had another surgery. However, as I was going through that process, I had realized through that experience what was really important to me. It was kind of like, when you have your mortality in front of you and it's like this, there's no like peripheral vision. And there's even no like for me, anyways, there's not like what's after this kind of vision. It was like, this is in front of me and this is in front of me right now. And I realized that while I didn't know what my outcome was going to be, and I still don't know what my outcome is going to be because, well, none of us really do. And I can't control my outcome either. And so I started really getting the experience of you can't control cancer and you can't control if you're going to heal cancer or not. And so I let that go. I let the idea, MJ, of healing cancer go. I didn't care about healing cancer anymore. That wasn't important to me. What was important to me was what I did have control of. And what I have control of is how I choose to show up for myself every day through the actions, not the intentions, through the actions that I take, how I'm going to choose to feel, and what I am going to choose to do. And so I chose after that experience, I got on the phone and I chose to start being of service in my community in a different way than I was being in service. And then I also chose to start showing up for myself in a different.
So you really did get quite a bit from this experience. And it sounds like this experience was meant to happen for these exact reasons.
Yes, because if I had not had the experience, and Krishna did talk to me about cancer and Krishna gave me invitations to okay, so in this modern world, what is it? What do we call it against cancer? What is it against cancer that we're doing? We're fighting. It's a fight against cancer.
Always. Mhm.
And so what Krishna was showing me was that cancer, it was a part of me. And that the more I fought against cancer, for me, might not be this way for everybody, but the more that I fought against cancer, the more the cancer was going to grow. And for me to do is not fight cancer. I've been fighting my whole life against things. So for me, it was time to embrace cancer and love the cancer. And most importantly, accept that I had cancer and accept cancer for who it was and what it was. And simply ask cancer to be my teacher and to ask cancer what I could do to befriend cancer and to come and sit next to cancer and get to know it and to understand what cancer is in my body. And my intention wasn't to heal cancer. My intention was to love the cancer and to learn from the cancer. And also to learn and to love the world around me, to not feel separate from the world around me. Because I also felt very separate from the world around me because I was on this high horse, right? And so getting down off that high horse, and because I saw now how everybody, right, these people that I were judging were these beautiful flowers. And when I got down off this high horse and I looked at them eye to eye, I could see that beautiful flower that was them. And I could hear that beautiful song that is them. But I had to come and know that I am equal to them and that they have something to teach me and I can learn from them and I can love everyone. Except accepting everyone is different from approving of everyone's actions, but accepting everyone was so important. So all of those hits that I was getting, like I said, when I was coming back down and I saw that smog and I heard that buzz, and Krishna started showing me like what all those things were. And I said like that, how I was those things, like those were some of the frames that Krishna was showing me, like how I had been showing up in my life. And it was up to me to start showing up and experiencing life and looking at life, being with life in in a new way.
Incredible. That's an incredible insight you've grasped from that experience. And I'm wondering about a few other things.
Okay.
So you did mention that you returned with gifts, or maybe Krishna was showing you gifts to help you help your healing journey through cancer, right?
Yes.
Now, would you be able to share some of those gifts and how they supported your recovery?
Yes. So the biggest gift I got was the gift of understanding that every morning when I wake up, it's a gift. And so gratitude. Gratitude is the biggest gift. And so instead of living in fear every day, because I mean, I was in a huge fear state that, oh my gosh, am I dying? Am I dying? Am I going to die? And I haven't gone to this place, and my daughter hasn't gotten married, and I haven't held grandchildren, and I haven't done this, and I haven't done that. And so I had like unfinished things I hadn't done, right? And what will people what will people think of me if I die of cancer? If I lose this battle? And so gratitude was the biggest thing. I was shown to write a book and to start reframing cancer. Like one of the things that came to me as I was coming back down was to talk about removing the idea of people saying, oh, they lost their battle to cancer. What a terrible thing for somebody to die knowing that everybody around them is going to say they lost their battle to cancer instead of they loved and they became so sweet and they became so endearing and they became so understanding and they became so compassionate as they died because, well, we all die. And it's that shift of perception of how we look at how we died that can make the big difference. And is it really death in its totality? No. It's death of the way that we were, but don't we already go through deaths in life? It's death when we don't graduate, when we graduate from school. It's death when our children move out of the house. It's death when we get a divorce. It's death when we go up 4 dress sizes after menopause, right? Like, of our wardrobe, right? So,
Like a transitioning.
exactly. And so that was another gift that I was shown. Then to get on this mountain with the megaphone and shout all of this, but with those individual experiences and exchanges that happen between me and another person, just organically and naturally, I will have this opportunity to share this knowingness that I got when I was formless. And I received all of these, I want to call them wisdom codes, if you will, that I brought back down with me of just really being in the love and compassion of the heart and giving ourselves permission. We don't have to, I don't need to know how that airplane works in order to get in that airplane and let it take me from one place to the next. I don't need to know that. But here's the thing. If I trust in it, then as I'm going from one place to the next, then I'm not anxiety ridden. I can enjoy the ride, right? But if I don't trust in how that airplane operates, because I don't know the mechanics of it, I don't know the logistics of it, I'm gonna freak out. Doubt the whole way there. What am I not getting the opportunity to see as I'm looking out the window, or the exchange that I'm gonna have with the person sitting next to me? So, just that trust and that surrender to not have to know all the things, but to just be on the lookout for the beauty that exists within it. The first surgery didn't get cancer out. The second surgery, still there's cancer. The third surgery, which resulted in a bilateral mastectomy, so they removed both of my breasts, even though there was cancer just in the one breast. I like unicorns, but I didn't want to look like one, so to speak. Okay, and I wasn't gonna have implants, because I was learning that it wasn't my physical body that made me feminine. It was what was underneath my breast that made me feminine. It's my heart that makes me a feminine, beautiful being. Okay.
That was beautiful analogy. I absolutely love that so much. So let me ask you the couple things. So,
Okay.
do you fear death now? And if you were sitting next to someone who was transitioning, as you always do, what would you say to them?
I would say what I just said on Saturday as I sat next to somebody, because I'm still volunteering as an end-of-life doula for hospice. Right now, I'm volunteering through Inhabit. When I was living in Sedona, I started to volunteer, and I volunteered through a hospice called Compassus. And so I volunteered the whole way up. So, look, the NED didn't result in healing cancer, because my focus wasn't on healing cancer. My focus was on having gratitude and knowing that every day is a gift. And because my mind shifted away from grappling on to my life into having gratitude for my life, while there was still a positive focal margin after that last surgery, meaning they saw a couple of little cancer cells. So I then had radiation. I work with a very well-known board-certified oncologist in naturopathic medicine. She takes my blood all the time. There's no sign. So they won't say that I am in remission, because I'm not 2 years out. But what they will say is that I am what is called a no evidence of disease. So a Signatera, which is a circulating tumor DNA test, they're negative every time I have one. My blood panel is beautiful. I'll go back in a year from now, in May, it will be 1 year, and they'll do another ultrasound. They did an ultrasound back in November because there were cells there, right? And I did have radiation, but they just wanted to take a little peek and be sure there is nothing there. They saw nothing in the ultrasound. So yes, I am currently in a state of no evidence of disease. I absolutely feel like this experience that I had shifted my perception and got me out of fearing death and grappling on to, I have to heal this, because of my ego, right? And because I was making up these excuses, MJ, I want to see my grandbabies. But the bottom line, when I undress all of that to be very transparent, it was all about my ego. Right? How could I have been this holistic health practitioner for 27 years, but I got cancer and I couldn't heal cancer? That doesn't matter, because we're all going to die. And to answer your question, I am not afraid of death. I think death is the most beautiful aspect of life. When we understand that life was a gift, and what we're going to see at the end of this transition.
You are so right. You are so very right.
It's such a gift because of who we become. And for me, I was becoming one with everything. Fascinating.
So you chose to volunteer with hospice during your cancer journey and
Yeah,
continue to do so
yeah,
now. How
yeah.
can people find you and how can they connect with you if they feel like they want to follow? Or do you have any services or do you have any published works?
So I am in the process of writing a book, and I will publish in some capacity once I have finished writing my book. I used to have all the websites and all the things, but I've let all those things go. I do have a Facebook page.
There we go.
And so I'm Sommer Leigh on Facebook. I don't use my last name. A lot of people just have a stage name, if you will, on Facebook. And so mine is just my first and middle name on Facebook. Um, and then I'm happy to share an email address, summerstarlight444. It's spelled a little unique. I can give that to you so you can put it up if you like at Gmail. And I'm happy to accept a email and reply.
That is wonderful. And I will have those links in the description below. Now, everyone that returns with a truth. What truth did you return with that you would want humanity to hear?
When we really look at who we are from the space of the heart, we're able to see past all of those things that we have trouble with and find the beauty. It's like a diamond that is alive and well within us, and it's asking us to let it shine.
Thank you so much, Sommer, for being here.
Sure, of course. Thank you.
Oh my
Sorry about
goodness.
that.
No,
Yeah,
don't be ever sorry about showing
yeah.
emotion
It's a good
and
reminder for me
showing,
too.
yeah, and showing who you really
It's
are.
interesting how quickly, like, you get back into the practice of things of life, and especially with everything that's going on in the world right now.
Oh, I know. You know what, though? Your experience was so profound and is such a reminder of how thin the veil really is. Your willingness to return and then to sit beside others in hospice while walking through cancer yourself, that speaks to a soul who truly understands what this life is actually for.
Oh, thank you.
You're
Thank you
very
so
welcome.
much.
Thank you very much for bringing your light and
Mm.
your wisdom here to the returned.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure. I loved the questions because they, had me feel into them. And I hope that at least one person takes away a positive message from the interview. That's that's my daily goal is to touch just one heart a day, if I
And
may,
you
be of
will.
servitude to just one person a day, if I may. And I
That's
ask
so
that.
beautiful.
I ask that now every day. Please show me how I can be of servitude to just at least one person today.
Beautiful.
Thank You're beautiful. Thank you. Thank you
You're
for
welcome.
holding this container and getting this out. I think a lot of people think it's woo woo or think that you have to have some type of special capability or you have to have some type of engagement with religion in order to have this experience and to be able to receive this. That's just not the
It is so not the case, is
Thank
it?
you for bringing
And
this awareness out to
you bet.
the masses because I think it's really important to for people to have access.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
And to all those watching, if there is something that you take from today's conversation, let it be this: life is not random. It is precious beyond words. Even illness, even in uncertainty, and even in the shadow of death. Love deeper, notice more, and be present. Thank you for watching, and until next time, stay open, stay curious, and keep returning to the truth within you.